The year was 2008. Video streaming service Hulu, music streaming service Spotify, online homestay marketplace Airbnb, and Google Play, the official app store for the Android operating system, all launched for public access. The Large Hadron Collider at CERN in Geneva, Switzerland was powered up for the first time. SpaceX launched the first privately developed spacecraft into orbit. And YouTube hosted the largest ever live broadcast, YouTube Live. As technological advances continued to march humanity toward the 21st century, beloved Japanese filmmaker Hayao Miyazaki, preferring organic man-made art over digital alternatives, closed the computer graphics department of Studio Ghibli in advance of production on his 10th film as director. But Jesse never saw it. Until now. This is Movies I Missed 2008, Episode 4, Ponyo.
I'm Jesse Munoz.
I'm Ryan Miller.
This is Movies I Missed 2008, episode number 4. Today we are talking about the film Ponyo, released July 19th, 2008 in Japan and August 14th, 2009 in the US, with a running time of 1 hour and 41 minutes. I want to give a warning that we will be discussing all aspects of this movie. That includes spoilers. Ponyo is a 2008 animated fantasy film written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki, produced by Studio Ghibli. It follows a goldfish princess who escapes from her underwater home and is rescued by a 5-year-old boy named Sosuke. After tasting human blood, she begins transforming into a little girl, creating a magical bond with Sosuke. Her change also disrupts the balance of nature, forcing both children to face a world threatened by rising seas.
A goldfish. Can't get it out. That was weird.
Couple of plugs. Moviesimissed.com is our website. You can find all our links, including our links to our Instagram and YouTube at Movies I Missed Podcast. And we're available everywhere and anywhere you get podcasts. Please subscribe. All right, Ryan.
Yes.
So I want to start by saying, Ponyo, Ponyo, pony fishy in the sea. Tiny little fishy. Who could you really be? Man, that song has been stuck in my head ever since I watched the movie. It's like the most childish, like little lullaby singing rhyme, but all I hear is Ponyo, Ponyo, Ponyo. That's all I hear in my head since I've watched this movie.
I don't envy you.
Despite that, I really, really like this movie. Spoilers. What's your history with the Studio Ghibli movies? I think we talked a little bit about Princess Mononoke being one of my favorite movies of 1999. I haven't seen all of their movies, but for the most part, I've really, really enjoyed them. Princess Mononoke probably being my favorite, and I think Spirited Away is probably, even though Princess Mononoke I think is my favorite, I think Spirited Away is their best movie.
Have you seen Pompoko yet?
I have not.
Oh, it's all going to change when you see that one.
Oh, really? Did you see The Boy and the Heron?
No.
Oh, man, I was really disappointed with The Boy and the Heron.
Yeah. I'd say I've seen probably more than half of their movies. I haven't seen some of the new stuff like Boy and the Heron or The Wind Rises, but I like them in general, and there's definitely a part of me that's like, I need to like finish off the catalog and watch them all. But even like this one, Ponyo, I've wanted to see for a long time. Your friend and mine, Joe Daxberger, saw it for the first time probably like 5 years ago and was telling me I got to see it. And then he ended up giving it to me for like Christmas that year or something on Blu-ray. Still hadn't gotten around to watching it until now. So glad to have finally watched it. But yeah, I like their stuff in general. We watched Spirited Away, you and I, for the Sidetrack podcast however many years ago. And that's another one where, like, I'd always heard how great it was and seen visuals from it. And for whatever reason, I don't know, I guess generally when it comes to anime, I'm more geared towards like the action oriented stuff like Akira or Ghost in the Shell or something.
Sure.
And so like Princess Mononoke saw like way back when it came out and have seen many times, but Spirited Away just took me forever to finally watch it. And then I ended up loving that one.
Yeah. Spirited Away is so good.
Yeah, that one may be my favorite now, but so had been wanting to see this, just hadn't gotten around to it yet. But I've seen Nausicaa, I've seen My Neighbor Totoro, I've seen Porco Rosso, Pompoko, Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke, this now. I still haven't seen Howl's Moving Castle. I haven't seen Kiki's Delivery Service.
What about Castle in the Sky? That's a really good one.
I haven't seen that one. So like I said, I've probably seen more than half of them.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat where it's like, every time I watch one, I'm like, gosh, I need to watch the rest. Because every time I watch one, I really enjoy it. Save for The Boy and the Heron. The Boy and the Heron isn't bad. It just didn't work for me as much as all the other ones. Like this one's more on the line of My Neighbor Totoro, which I really enjoy, but doesn't quite, because it's more of this one feels like more of a kid's movie than some of the other ones, like Princess Mononoke. I mean, animation usually you think of as kids movies anyways, but and the Ghibli ones kind of go back and forth. Like Spirited Away, I don't know if that's a kid's movie, but my kids really enjoyed it. Like I don't know. Is it? Yeah, Princess Mononoke isn't really a kid's movie. It deals with a little bit more of a mature themes.
Well, I mean, like I was saying, like I feel like Princess Mononoke and Nausicaa, they're like sci-fi, almost action movies in my mind. They're more of like a epic adventure with some kind of stakes to them. It's not just like a personal story of a couple of people or whatever. So like I definitely think I gear more towards that kind of stuff, but like I still have a desire to see all of them. And I'm for the most part, I mean, I don't know, is Princess Mononoke, is there anything, I haven't seen it in a few years, is there anything that's like explicitly not okay for kids?
I mean, there's like limbs getting cut off and there's a little bit of swearing and stuff. It's a little bit more violent and bloody than anything that's in Ponyo for sure.
I mean, I went to see just in last week in the theater. I went to see The Conjuring: Last Rites, the fourth Conjuring movie. Sure. And there was a fucking toddler in the screening, so I don't know what's okay for kids to watch.
For kids movies, that's just that there's morons that take their kids to movies that they shouldn't be watching. Like
I'm just saying, I don't know what it's okay for kids to watch. I don't have any kids, so I don't really belong in a conversation, I guess.
Yeah, directed and written by Hayao Miyazaki, who's done most of the big Studio Ghibli projects. Thoughts on Miyazaki? I mean, just a master, right?
I mean, he's great. It just goes along with what I was just saying. Like they're all good. I want to watch them all. I mean,
the movie, regardless of what you think of story or plot of any of the movies, they're just gorgeous. Like everything about them looks great, and they're all different. Like they all have a different look. Like this one had a very specific look to it that I really enjoyed. There's a simplicity to some of it, and then there's like this colored pencil look for all the backgrounds that I just thought was gorgeous, which is different than like Spirited Away, which was different than The Boy and the Heron, which was different than Howl's Moving Castle, and different than Castle in the Sky, and you know what I mean? Like each one of them is a little bit different. There's one thing that he always includes as an animator. There's food for sure, but it's the mundane. He animates the mundane things that most people or most companies or most places don't animate, and makes it so interesting. Like things like walking or turning a machine on, or cooking, or
carrying a bucket with a bunch of water in it, and how that causes you to walk and your like posture. Because
it changes every little aspect, and he does it in a way, and it's him and his team, obviously him being the director and the writer, but through his direction, that they take the mundane and make it so visually engaging and interesting and real. He's like a total master. Like when it comes to this sort of style of animation, he's like a master class.
Yeah. I mean, I think a great scene as an example of that in this is when the big storm is happening and Sasuke and his mom make it back to their house, and Ponyo's there in like her little girl form, and they go inside, and then it's like, okay, the power's out, so like they get a light and they give it to Ponyo, and then she like holds it while the mom tries to get the generator on, and then she's like, oh, you guys want tea, and it shows all the like elements of making the tea, and then they're hungry, and it shows her like how they make and prepare the ramen and everything, and yeah, it's just like you could have cut away like, oh, you guys are hungry, and then cut to them sitting there eating or something, but they show all the little steps of it.
I feel like 99% of other studios cut away at that point to show something that's easier to animate and maybe would be more quote unquote interesting, but they take the mundane and make it so interesting. And I just love that. Every time I watch one of their movies, I'm just like, I mean, Spirited Away is full of that. Like that's the entire movie of that, but just the mundane stuff of like carrying the bucket and the way it works or running on top of waves. I don't know.
That was
like,
super cool.
Yeah, like it's just the way they animated the waves to be almost to have like eyes and to have form, and because they're being controlled. I don't know. All of it is just so cool. The dude creates these just magical worlds of the mundane. I don't know of a better way to put it. But.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like, you know, you think about like I live in the middle of nowhere, and so there's a part of me that kind of romanticizes cities and populated areas because I don't live in one. And I just remember, you know, when you and I went to the Kubert School in New Jersey, I mean, it was like a kind of rural town in New Jersey, but it was like, you know, a main street with like restaurants and stuff. And I just remember my third year living there, I lived in an apartment right next to the train station that would take you, you know, if you rode it long enough, it would take you to Grand Central in New York. And that was like as close to a big city as I'd ever lived in. And so I'm used to like when I walk outside at night, it's like pitch black and I can see the stars and I hear crickets and shit and there's like no other people around. And so like when I lived in New Jersey in that apartment, like I could open my curtain at night and there was ambient light from like the lights from the parking lot next door. And most people who live in a populated area would probably be annoyed by that or not even think about it. But I just thought it was the coolest thing. Like, wow, there's lights and life around me. I can hear the people getting off the train coming back from like a late night drinking in New York City or whatever. And like, so the opposite way, like me living out in the middle of the country, like it's nice and I know that it's peaceful, but like you see this other kind of peaceful, like rural place that they live in the movie, and it's somewhere that I don't live, that's like unique, this little fishing village and everything, and like all the visuals of that, and like their little house with the generator and like the tiny little fence, and like you can walk down the hill to the water, and there's like something just like appealing and romantic and quaint about it that is just like, I feel like anybody who watches this, unless you're one of the like 4 people in the world who live in a beautiful scenic place like that, it's just hard not to be swept up in it. And I think that's why all the mundane stuff works so well, is because like it's so different from your life. Just seeing like how they have to do this or that, or get their water from the pump and yada, yada, yada. I don't know. They do an incredible job at capturing that shit. And it's the same thing with the food, because like you go out to a nice restaurant and, you know, you maybe have like a well-plated dish and it tastes good and everything, but 9 times out of 10, you know, you're at home and you're making something just to eat. It ain't going to look pretty or whatever. Hopefully it tastes good. But like, in these movies, the way that they make the food look, it's like, I can't imagine I've ever tasted anything as good as that fake food probably tastes to that fake person that doesn't have taste buds. It's the attention to detail. And I mean, you know, there's a lot of different types of anime and animation, and different shows and movies have like different reasons for existing and different goals in mind. You know, there's shows where they have to crank out X number of episodes in a year or whatever. And it's like, I'm the kind of person who, I loved The Simpsons in the first 10 seasons, and I still kind of romanticize that as well, and like can go back and watch it and love all the imperfections in the animation. And I like seeing a new episode now and I hate the way it looks because everything's animated with computers and there's no like flaws or like life life to the animation anymore to
Yeah.
me. And, you know, so I understand how certain things, if they have to do like 30 episodes of a show, it makes sense to streamline it and whatnot. But like Miyazaki and certain other anime directors and animators outside of even 2D animation, like the guys at Leica, like there are certain people who take the time and they put in the effort to make something look as visually appealing as they want it to be. And that's where like the real, like I can watch the most seemingly boring thing happening, but I'm still captivated by it because I'm just like, look at the effort, look at how well they captured this. And
it's the artistry that each thing brings to what you're talking about. It reminds me of early Pixar because like this doesn't necessarily, the style doesn't remind me of early Pixar. It's the intention of creating something new and something bold. I think of like the Ghibli movies a lot like the Pixar movies where it's like they wanted to see what they could do with water when they created Finding Nemo, right? And so all those tools that they poured into making something completely brand new in Finding Nemo was so, at the time, like artistically engaging in a way that was just like, and then they craft a story around that, right? And I feel like a lot of what Studio Ghibli does too, it's like in this, a lot of what Miyazaki was like reading or dreaming about was like The Little Mermaid, the original, not the Disney one, but like the original story and how he could like do these things. Or like he visited a town that was very similar to this and how it inspired a lot of what the town was like. I miss Pixar doesn't do that anymore. They got to the point where they're like, we just want to make everything as realistic as possible.
And we just have to have a movie out every year. So
yeah. And I feel like for 3D studios, Sony is probably the closest thing of people that are like innovating and doing like really cool new things and trying to be inspired by artistic styles. But Miyazaki, I feel like, is just consistently do it. If you look at like just the works from Castle in the Sky was 86 all the way to The Boy and the Heron in 23. It's just a list of every picture doing something new and innovating and doing this is kind of getting in the way of the notes, but like they were using a lot of CGI originally. Says a few previous Studio Ghibli movies used CGI, the earliest being Princess Mononoke in 97, 99. But for the production of Ponyo, they closed down the CGI studio to prioritize hand-drawing animation, and they went with a simple style that, not because it was easier or because they could do it faster, it was because they found a style that fit for the story that they were trying to tell. So it's
the subject matter. And
it's just the artistry that goes into the Studio Ghibli movies is the thing that always brings me back. Like regardless of what the story is, the stories that I find always engaging, and we'll get to the story in Ponyo, but just the artistry that goes into making these films is just so engaging. I just, for me as someone that loves that stuff, it's easy to get swept up in these worlds, man. Like I'm just looking at the backgrounds and I think it's like a colored pencil look to the way that all the greens and blues, and even there's a time where they're sailing and then they get to the end of their trip and she's fallen asleep and they walk on the road, and I'm looking at the detail on the road, and the road is gray, but if you look closely, that road had every color in it. And I'm just like looking at all the different pencil strokes of reds and greens and blues and oranges, all in this gray, mundane road. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's just like I'm so wrapped up in it. I just love it so much.
Yeah. I didn't know the thing you just mentioned about like the CG in their prior movies and using none in this, but I will say that while I was watching this, like there were times where like, you know, I still think Akira is a high point for just like quality of animation and like the backgrounds and everything. But I'm sure I've told you about it before. If nothing else, Dax and I have reviewed it on Triple Threat Theater. Have you watched the anime Your Name?
No, I keep meaning to watch it, but I know that it's something that you've highly recommended.
It's so good. And I think in the modern era, it's the most stunningly gorgeous and impressive looking anime I've seen in recent memory. And I'm sure they used like plenty of computer stuff in there. I don't know how they accomplished a lot of it, but it's just like every single scene is stunning looking. And it's like, it's this like this level of perfection that makes it so impressive and stunning constantly. But then like this movie, I'm watching it and there are scenes where it's just like there's a lot going on, like with waves crashing and all, but if you really stop and look at the style, it's like really loose and simple, like line work and stuff, but it's done so well. It's like even though it's not as technically, like just from a polish level standpoint, amazing as something like Your Name, it's equally as impressive and awe-inspiring to me, just like the amount of work that went into it and like feeling, oh, this is like hand drawn. Because like, you know, you were talking about Pixar and CG stuff, and I think that CG animation can get to a point where it's like I almost, it's not necessarily that it's stagnant or something, but it's almost like I don't understand it, like how it's all done, and I probably have no concept of how hard it is to do, but it's like I can't appreciate it because I don't get it. And so as amazing as a lot of like modern CG animated movies look, it's like there's no part of my brain that's stopping and saying, wow, look at that, I wonder how they did that, because I just can't conceive of it.
Sure.
But like every single hand-drawn animated film, I still think has the potential for that, just because I get how it works. So every single time you do it really well, I'm just as bowled over as the 10 times before. It's not like if 10 movies that are hand-drawn animation all look as good as one another, it becomes old. It's just like, look, they all did it so well. Like each one of them, bravo.
Yeah, and I don't want to be like anti-CGI because there's some like awesome CGI stuff, like the Spider-Verse. I think about it, you know, like that stuff is incredible. And I'm the same way, where I don't really know how it all works, but you see the artistry. I feel like
that one's definitely a lot more style, though. The decisions being made that it's going to be stylistic rather than just like this is the most polished, like typical big eye kid-friendly characters you've ever seen, which is a lot of, you know. Well, all the movies that come out now, like Ilio and Turning Red and everything, they all kind of look the same. I'm not criticizing the skill and all involved because I'm sure it's beyond anything I can imagine. But it, like I said, it's kind of all the same, and I just don't understand how good it is and how hard it is. Even if you don't understand it,
I think it becomes monotonous because it is all the same. It's not that you lose artistry, but you lose something when it's all just cookie cutter. You know what I mean? Like even traditional animation can be that way, where it's just mundanely drawn in the same kind of boring way, and there's no like oomph given to it.
Yeah.
And I feel like studios like Ghibli and Miyazaki are always challenging themselves to push it beyond what they could do. Pixar as an animation studio, I felt like to a point was doing that with like Wall-E and I mentioned Finding Nemo and things like that. And then they got to a point where they just kind of rested on their laurels. And that sounds insulting, but it's not. But it's like all they wanted to do was try to make it as real as possible. And that's kind of boring, to be honest. Like we already can see how real it is. And so like the studios like Sony, where they took that CGI and they took all those tools and they did something new with it. You know what I mean? There's something where you're like, you're pushing the boundaries, not of just the technology, but of the artistry of what you're doing. And again, coming back to Ghibli, it's like they're consistently doing that.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about, the cast is going to be quick. Noah Cyrus is Ponyo. She's Miley Cyrus's little sister. She was,
if you say so,
8 at the time. My kids don't even know who she is. She sings the song and does the voice of Ponyo. Frankie Jonas as Sosuke. He's the 4th Jonas brother. I didn't know there was a 4th Jonas brother until this.
I know that people exist who are quote unquote the Jonas brothers. I know nothing about them, who they are, how many they are, what they've done.
There's 3 Jonas brothers. There's singers.
Actually, there's 4 apparently.
Well, the Jonas brothers are a trio of singers, and they had a bunch of like Nickelodeon shows or something. Yeah, that's them. Tina Fey is the voice of the mom, Lisa. I thought she was really good in this. She wasn't like overly Tina Fey. I think it's just because she played it as straight, not as like a Tina Fey character.
Yeah. You know what's funny is Cate Blanchett is like top billed and everything. Yeah. Her name is like the first one or the biggest one or whatever. So I was assuming through the majority of the movie that Cate Blanchett was the voice of the mom because she's like the main female character with the most dialogue.
Yeah.
So like when I realized that she was like the sea goddess or whatever, who doesn't really come in until the very end and doesn't have that much dialogue. I was like, who the hell was the mom? I didn't even realize it was Tina Fey until the credits.
That's funny. Matt Damon's got a couple lines as Kochi, the father.
Now that one, see, I feel like his name might have even been before Tina Fey's.
Yeah.
And so I kept waiting for him to come in. And then, he's got like 10 lines in the whole movie. He's just always on the boat.
Yep. Liam Neeson's got a part as Fujimoto, the weird, I don't even know what he is. He
used to be a man. He used to be a human, and now he's not, even though he still looks like one.
Yeah.
But he specifically says he used to be a person. Yeah,
but he's ancient. I think he's been around for a long time. He's really interesting. I liked him as this weird character. You mentioned Kate Blanchett as the ethereal goddess, water goddess lady. And then I got Lily Tomlin, Betty White, and Cloris Leachman were the old ladies.
The old ladies.
Yeah, at the rest home. Mm-hmm. So what did you know about the movie before? And did you know that Ponyo was going to be a little girl? Like all I knew was there was a fish person. I didn't know it was a girl. I had no idea she would become a girl, and I had no idea where any of this movie was going.
I remembered the imagery from the previews of her running on the waves, so I knew she was a girl at some point, and I don't know if this is actually based on or inspired by The Little Mermaid, but I feel like I had always heard, whether it was true or not, that this was Miyazaki's adaptation of The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
So I assumed that it was, a non-human becoming a human, but that's really all I knew.
Okay.
I mean, do you know, is this an adaptation of The Little Mermaid, or this is just kind of inspired by that sort of idea?
It's not, I wouldn't call it an adaptation, but it's definitely has bits of The Little Mermaid story inspired some of what the movie is.
Like I wasn't sure if it was one of those things where, like, we all know some fairy tale movie and then like you hear about, the original Grimm's fairy tale is like so much darker and stranger. Like if this was one of those instances, like I know that a written version of The Little Mermaid existed before the Disney movie, but the Disney movie is the only like version of the story I know. So I don't even know. That could be way off from what the original was, and this is closer. I have no clue.
There's actually like a lot of information about this movie. There's the art of books for a lot of these movies.
Mm-hmm. I have the one for Nausicaa with all of his watercolor paintings.
Okay, and so I was able to pull some quotes in the notes. It was just interesting. I could have just read the entire article that I found because I found it so interesting. But he did talk about the being inspired by The Little Mermaid, but not enjoying or not understanding some of the appeal of the character, and The Little Mermaid felt lifeless, and so that's sort of how it didn't begin but evolved from there.
He didn't understand things about The Little Mermaid? Because there's definitely some things I didn't understand about this movie.
Sure, there's a lot. I mean, I feel like that's a lot of his movies, right? There's always like these weird things going on that I just don't fully.
I mean, just starting with the guy that Liam Neeson plays used to be a human, he says, but now he's not. He has a daughter, which is like they call
he's
it
got
the
many
kids.
Daughters. Right?
Yeah, the kids call it a goldfish. So I'm like, okay, is what we're seeing just like their visual representation, but to the characters in the movie, she's actually supposed to look like a fish? Because to us, it looks like a red dress with a weird half-human face on top of it. Mm-hmm. And that is the daughter of this Liam Neeson guy who just looks like a dude in a blue and white striped suit. And what we come to find later is like this enormous like god of the sea. So like, how does that all work? And he like, I can kind of put things together. He's got like weird underwater ships. And like he's like a wizard kind of guy because he's got like potions and stuff.
Yeah, but I don't understand what happened exactly because let's go through it, right? So she gets taken up to the mainland on
she
top
sneaks
of a
out.
Jellyfish. And Sosuke finds her and is like, "Oh, I've got a goldfish," and he takes her to school and keeps her in a bucket and shows her off.
Feeds her some ham.
Feeds her ham. She licks his cut and
he gets cut on his thumb and then she licks the blood, which I didn't expect to be important, but apparently is.
The whole thing of the movie. And
she gets a taste for human blood and then she wants to be one.
I know. It sounds like a horror movie. but it's not played that way. And so I thought the whole movie was going to be Liam Neeson trying to get her back, right?
I mean, it kind of is.
I know, but
that's
like
happening at all times.
In the first like 20 minutes, she's back, and he brings her back, and she is able to talk now and wants to go to the surface and says how much she loves Soski.
And through force of will can grow limbs.
Right. Starts begin to turning herself human. And then he's got this like goo that he like locks up in this thing.
And he's like, if a creature ever came into contact with this, that would be like bad, or it would be the end, or I don't remember exactly how he worded it.
As she grows her humanness, like she grows these like chicken legs and chicken arms, and then they morphs into human hands and feet. It like she creates like a whirlwind or a whirlpool of water, and it sucks everything in, and she accidentally opens the door, which has this like golden goo, which then turns her sisters, I guess, into like giant golden fish that are like made of water as well. I don't know. And
well, he also has the ability, her father, the Liam Neeson guy, to just like throw little blue things that become like sentient waves.
So weird, with eyes
that are like his minions. It's like waves with eyeballs, which is pretty creepy.
It's awesome though. They're so awesome.
I know it totally is, but it's also weird as shit. It just
so
reminds me.
When I was trying to put together the summary of this movie, I'm like, how do I summarize this?
It just reminds me of when I was a kid. I'm sure I've told you about this before at some point. My sister loved unicorns. And so there's an animated movie made by Osamu Tezuka, the guy that created Astro Boy, called, what the fuck is it called now? Unico in the Isle of Magic or something like that. And my parents had recorded it on VHS off of television when we were kids, and my sister used to watch it all the time, so I watched it a bunch too because of her. And like as a kid, like, you know, you have a wild imagination and like you just kind of go with anything. But then like years passed and I had these weird memories of the movie. So I watched it as an adult and it was just the weirdest fucking thing. It's like a wizard is shooting laser beams at people and turning them into like wooden dolls that then his kid sidekick can play a flute, and it makes the dolls march and they all stack themselves and build like a giant castle out of themselves in the ocean. And this movie gives me those same vibes of just like, I can see what's happening. I don't understand why any of it's happening, but it's just that like, okay, it's Japanese. I obviously just don't understand the culture. I'm just going to roll with it, you know?
I don't even know if it's a cultural thing. There's just so many like weird, fantastical things happening, but I don't feel like.
But then there's just like no explanation for anything. So I'm like, the people in Japanese culture must have some kind of context for this in their own folklore that makes them not all like stop in the middle of the movie and go, what the fuck is Miyazaki talking about?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's
Maybe
definitely
not,
like some metaphors like industry versus or industrial versus nature throughout a lot of the movies. Like
I even thought it was going to be more about that, because early on when we meet the Liam Neeson character, he seems to be annoyed by like, you know, pollution and all these boats and whatnot in the harbor, but then it's not really about that.
Yeah. No, it's just strange because as you try to explain it, like beat by beat, I don't even know exactly what is going on, but I'm not really.
I think you just need to step back. Like the more details you try to give about the plot, the less it makes sense. Yeah. But like long story short, there's this magical fish creature that gets a taste of what it's like to be human, literally and figuratively, because she licks the blood off the kid's finger.
Yep.
And then she yearns to be a human, and her father is like, no, you're a magical being. If you become a human, you will lose your magic. So would you rather stay a fish person and have magical powers, or would you rather be a human for the sake of love, because she's like in puppy love with the little boy, and lose your magic powers? It's pretty close to The Little Mermaid without the magic.
Sure, but what is causing? It's obviously Ponyo, but why is it causing the water to rise? And like
something about her magic, I guess. Like they have to make it official that she's going to be a human, and then like all that magic stuff will subside. Is kind of how it read to me.
I don't know if that's true. That's how. Why is that happening? Like, what is what is happening?
Because anime, Jesse.
Sure.
Because
this is not
we
a complaint.
bombed Japan during World War II, and they haven't been the same since.
Sure. It's also funny that her becoming human is if Sosuke would love her. And it's like, they're like 5-year-old kids.
Yeah, they're little kids.
Yeah. Will you love her? Like, yeah, I love her. I'm 5. What do you?
Yeah, they kind of sort of almost have a marriage ceremony where he has to, like, it's kind of like, will you to have and to hold through sickness and health. They're basically like, will you promise to love her forever? And he's like, yes. Okay. Now she's a person.
Yeah. And her powers are strange also because she like can make things grow. Like she just randomly increases the size of the boat and the candle.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's her power. Maybe her X-Men power is you can teleport, you have claws, I make things bigger and smaller. I read it more as she's got magical powers, like she can grow arms and legs and she can make things bigger. But like the first time they run into a problem where it clues into her, I can use my powers to solve this, is they need a boat. And they have the toy boat, but it's not big enough for them to actually ride in. So she uses her powers to make it bigger. And then they use that same power 1 or 2 more times because Sasuke has seen her do it. So like he knows she can. Like I don't read it as her only power is to make things slightly bigger, but it's like she used that ability once. And so now Sasuke knows she can. So he asks her to do it 1 or 2 more times when it's useful. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's how I read it.
Yeah. I'm just trying to put words to it. I'm trying to understand it in a way that while I was watching the movie, it didn't matter. Does that make sense? Like as we're talking about it, I'm putting it together. As I'm watching the movie, it's like I'm just in this world, and it's perfectly fine that she can just ride the waves the way she does.
Yeah, with a story and a premise like this, I think it's okay at some point to just kind of throw your hands in the air and be like, all right, I'm going to go for this ride, and I'll worry about it later. None of these are
complaints. None of these are even nitpicks. None of these are. I'm just trying to make conversation about what was happening.
The movie's weird, all right? But that
weird,
doesn't make it any less effective and beautiful and entertaining.
Yeah, I just, Sosuke's so enjoyable. I just love all of his interactions with like his classmate and Ponyo spitting water on everyone. And I don't know, it's just super
all
fun.
All the nice little old ladies and the one kind of crotchety old woman.
Yeah. I like how that kind of came into play where Liam Neeson's trying to get him to the ceremony, but he doesn't trust him because he tried to take Ponyo earlier, and the old lady is not down there with the other old ladies because she's so mistrusting. And
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it was really good.
And it's like she doesn't get along with Sasuke normally, but now that like she's the last one and she knows Sasuke is like an innocent little kid, she's like trying to help him. I thought that was a neat little element. Sure. I loved all the stuff of just, I could have watched them ride around on that boat.
On that boat with them, like seeing all the fish underneath with the flooded land where you see that it's so crystal clear that but it still looks like it's underwater, where you could see all of the land that's been flooded and all these like ancient fish that are now like revived and are swimming in places that they're not supposed to be. That stuff was just gorgeous, man. Gorgeous.
Yeah, that's just another thing that goes to what we were talking about before with like how much effort that isn't really necessary that Miyazaki and company always put in is just like anytime you are seeing underwater, there's just little squids and little crab creatures and things running around everywhere. Like anytime you're underwater, it's just like fully alive with life. And it's like cool as hell looking. Completely didn't need to be there, but I'm glad that it is.
Yeah, it's just so awesome to look at. I love the character stuff. Like his mom is a little bit rock and roll, you know what I mean? Like she drives crazy on the road.
And with that tiny little car.
When she's not supposed to go past this bridge because it's flooded, she like just guns it at the right time and takes off. And
yeah, and as that scene is happening, I'm thinking to myself, really? You're going to take this risk with your kid in the car?
I know. Totally.
Because they almost die.
Yeah, the water is like chasing them. And that scene of the water chasing them is so awesome. You know that Japanese painting of the wave?
Yeah,
the famous
The Wave
one?
is what it's called.
Yeah, that you could see
the Great Wave.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
You could see that as they're driving up the hill to go back home. I thought that was pretty cool. Super inspired by that. It's just, gosh, when I watch these movies, I'm just like, I want to create something this cool. I know that I can't, but I want to because it's just so inspiring. You know what I mean? It's like reading a Daniel Warren Johnson comic book where it's like, man, this art is so inspiring. The story is so gripping. I want to create. It just inspires creation. I just love it. So.
Yeah.
Super weird, but man, is it cool. And, we talked about the style a little bit earlier, but the simplistic style of everything doesn't take away from how good it is. You know what I mean? Like, it feels a little bit more like a kid's movie in the sense of like subject matter and even the style of being that simple. But man, the detail in the simplicity is just so on point. It's just so good. So.
Yeah, it's like achieved with a simplistic style, but especially because of like the constant churning water and everything that they're having to illustrate. Like, it's still impressive despite how quote unquote simplistic the style is.
I was reading also something about how a lot of times when you like animate a boat moving, you would just take that frame and slide it across the page so that you don't have to redraw it all the time. But that's not how they worked on this movie.
Yeah.
They'd redraw everything.
I've seen a video before explaining, like, because everybody kind of knows that like one of the things that everybody loves about Miyazaki's movies and Ghibli films is the food and how good the food looks. And I saw a video where someone was explaining, and I don't remember the terminology they used, but it was basically that like it's not just an object that like someone picks up and puts in their mouth. It's like every piece, like the bread and like the lettuce and the ham or whatever, is all animated independently. And it's all about how, like, if something is soft, it's not just like you grab it and it kind of maintains its shape. It's like gravity is going to affect, like, the bottom piece of bread is hanging down from the sandwich and stuff like that. And it's all the things that, again, aren't necessary, especially if you're on a time crunch. But Miyazaki and company make it a point to put every ounce of detail, and it makes the food look more realistic, and that like makes it like hits that part of the human lizard brain that is just like, ooh, I want that in my face.
Yeah, it's impressive. All right, let's talk a little bit about the box office. The budget for this was $34 million. I don't know what that translates to yen because it was made in Japan, but
can you believe that this movie only cost $4 million more than last week's movie?
Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Sarah Marshall.
That's crazy. Worldwide, it brought in $204 million. So
it is wild that, I mean, I would say until recently, the Ghibli films were pretty much the only anime that had any ability to cross over to the United States. Like, there were some that have gotten like large releases, but even stuff like The Boy and the Heron, that only got like a limited release in the US, but I still remember like hearing about it and seeing trailers for it. That's changing a little bit now because, again, I went to the theater recently and saw a couple movies myself, and I was looking at the box office for the weekend, and the Stephen King movie, as we record this, The Long Walk, came out recently, and it only did like 11.5 million domestically in its opening weekend. But I don't watch the anime, but there's a very popular anime and manga series called Demon Slayer. Yeah. And whatever new movie of that came out in theaters this weekend as well and made like $90 million or $70 million. It was the highest grossing film of the weekend in the United States by a large margin.
Well, it's all those like Gen Z kids that have grown up with parents that loved anime. You know what I mean? Like, the millennials that enjoyed anime, that were introduced to things like Ghibli, that grew up on that stuff, are now having their kids are watching Crunchyroll and all. You know what I mean? Like, it's becoming mainstream. And so when those movies come out, they're like super into it.
Yeah, I have a friend who's a couple years older than me. His name's Mike, and he has a son, and they go to see all of these like anime movies when they hit theaters together.
Yeah, it makes sense now.
But yeah, like, until recently, like I'd say the last like 5 to 8 years, that's become a thing. But before that, it was like Ghibli or nothing. Like,
but even Ghibli didn't break through huge in the States. I'll show you the numbers here in a second. But it made
even just the fact that some of them got like, well, that they were attracting big name voice talent, to do the dubs, and then B, that they were even getting a theatrical release in like AMC's and Regals. Like just that simple fact.
Well, John Lasseter is a lot of the reason why it started to cross over, because he was such a fan, and he was the one that convinced, this is in the notes, convinced Disney to release it here in the States. So I think his name is even in the credits. So it debuted
specifically, or
this movie, yeah.
Okay.
Ponyo. It debuted in 481 theaters on July 19th in Japan and grossed $9.6 million in first place. It remained in first place for the following 6 weekends. It remained wide in Japan until the middle of November. So it was just from July to November, it was just in the theaters all the time. It debuted in U.S. theaters on August 14th the following year in 927 theaters. In ninth place behind the top 3 movies that weekend, District 9, G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra, and The Time Traveler's Wife.
Oh, wow.
It grossed $3.5 million that weekend. It grossed over $1 million each weekend through Labor Day, and it left theaters in early November, grossing $15 million domestically. So of the $204 million worldwide, only $15 million came from the U.S.
Yeah. But considering the competition, which is basically nothing at that time when it comes to anime, $15 million ain't nothing to scoff at.
G.I. Joe, Rise of the Cobra, man. That movie was so bad. Was that the one with The Rock?
No, that was G.I. Joe Retaliation.
Rise of the Cobra.
Not that I'm going to say Rise of the Cobra is like amazing or anything, but I still have a soft spot for that movie.
Channing Tatum, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, right?
Yeah, and A. Wayans.
Jeez.
And it's directed by the dude who made the Mummy movies. And I mean, it's definitely a little more cartoony, doesn't take itself super seriously. I think that's what I always liked about it, is it felt like a live action cartoon. Not to say that makes it good, but that's what I attached to.
District 9, though, that was actually legit good.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised you didn't mention Inglourious Bastards, because I'm pretty sure that and District 9 opened on the same day, because I saw both of them. I saw like District 9 at like a 9 p.m. showing, and then I saw a midnight release of Inglourious Bastards the same night.
Well, that was just the top 3 of the weekend. I don't know where. Let me see if I can find real quick.
Just The Time Traveler's Wife beating Inglourious Bastards at any point during its run is a little surprising to me.
I know, right?
I mean, I am a fan of Time Traveler's Wife, though, so I'm not trying to throw shade. I'm just a little surprised.
Yeah.
Although I guess that was probably a popular book, so that probably got people out to the theater to a degree.
Oh, that weekend, I don't see Inglourious Bastards. The top movies were District 9, which was released that week. G.I. Joe in its second week. Time Traveler's Wife was released that week. Julie and Julia in its second week. G-Force in its fourth week.
Was that the fucking animated Gerbils? Oh,
yeah.
My God.
That was the animation that beat Ponyo. The Goods, Live Hard, Sell Hard.
Oh, boy.
Was that Jeremy Piven?
It was Jeremy Piven. I remember that movie.
I can't believe I remember that. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince in its fifth week. The Ugly Truth. Ponyo. Funny People was in its third week. 500 Days in Summer was in its fifth week.
God damn.
The Hangover was out. Transformers Revenge of the Fallen was out.
God, all those movies were in theaters at the same time? Jesus.
The Hurt Locker, Up was still out. Star Trek was in its 15th week.
Jeez.
I don't see Inglourious Bastards this week. Bruno was in the theater still. Yeah, so maybe it was the following weekend. I don't know which weekend it came out.
Like I said, I just know that I saw both of those movies the same night, and I think they both opened that day. Or maybe District 9 was like the week before or something.
Inglourious Bastards was the following week.
Okay.
That was the number one movie the following week.
Fair enough.
Yeah. All right. Unsurprisingly, on Letterboxd, the most number of fans so far of the movies that we've done this year, 33,000 fans on Letterboxd.
Wow.
With a huge 4.1 rating with 1 million ratings on Letterboxd. So it's definitely Studio Ghibli seems like a place where Letterboxd fans would definitely hang out.
Yeah, I mean, the kinds of people who frequent Letterboxd are going to be the kinds of people who would like a movie like Ponyo.
Mm-hmm. I wonder of the 33,000 fans on Letterboxd, how many have multiple Studio Ghiblis in their top 4?
Yeah,
I'd guess a lot.
Put in the time to research that and let us know on a future episode.
All right. 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, not surprising. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times gave it 4 out of 4 stars, said, "This poetic, visually breathtaking work by the greatest of all animators has such deep charm that adults and children will both be touched. It's wonderful and never even seems to try and unfolds fantastically."
Right on.
Yeah,
no notes.
100% agree. Philippa Hawker of The Age It's a paper in Australia, or a site in Australia. Gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Miyazaki effortlessly combines the marvelous and the mundane in his cinema. Visually, Ponyo is an imaginative, exhilarating work, but its vigor and energy are achieved with surprising simplicity. Basically all that we said for the last 50 minutes. Lou Lemonick of the New York Post gave it 3.5 out of 4 stars. This exquisite, pastel-colored, eye-popping example of hand-drawn animation is still very Japanese, aimed most specifically at children around the world, but with a storytelling sophistication that adults will savor.
Why does it sound like he's saying it's Japanese as a negative? It's still very Japanese, but
maybe in the sense of its weirdness, right? Like it is in the sense of like, this is not an American movie, right? Like American movies don't delve into the weird. This would not pass market tests in America.
It's just weird to be like, this exquisite, eye-popping, still very Japanese. Like,
yeah,
this is weird. He took off, it's 3.5 out of 4 stars. He took off half a star because it came from Japan.
Dang, racist.
This is weird.
All right, this is one of the few negative reviews I found. Christy Lemire of the Associated Press said, if you're 5 years old or under the influence of some sort of hallucinogenic drug.
Oh boy, I already don't like this.
Ponyo is probably awesome. Clearly, these are the ideal scenarios in which to watch the latest animated fantasy from Japanese writer-director Hayao Miyazaki. For everyone
Christy,
else,
shut the fuck up. Go back and get you a Starbucks drink and watch The Time Traveler's Wife.
Last sentence, because it's going to speak for everyone, Ryan. For everyone else, Ponyo will seem beautiful but surprisingly boring. A children's film that's at once overly simplistic and needlessly nonsensical.
Wow, bad take, Christy.
For everyone else, who is she? Who is this Christy Lemire speaking for me?
I don't know. I don't know. But I don't like the cut of her jib.
Yeah. Like immediately you knew you didn't agree with what she was going to say.
I didn't get it. Yeah. It was weird.
Yeah, that's a crazy take to me watching this movie. It's just how beautiful it is.
Yeah, you have to be 5 years old or high as fuck to enjoy this movie. Like, go to hell, Christy. That's Jesus Christ.
Carrie Rickey of the Philadelphia Inquirer gave it 3.5 out of 4 stars. You watch a Miyazaki film with pie-eyed, gape-mouthed awe of a child being read the most fantastic story and suddenly transported to places previously beyond the limits of imagination. It's quite a trip. I think Carrie Rickey was on some of those hallucinogenic drugs.
Quite a trip indeed.
Richard Corliss of Time Magazine said, when you see Ponyo, and you must, be prepared for a movie that doesn't abide by Hollywood rules. This is a tale for children, yes, of all ages, who are ready to be coaxed into another world through simple words and luscious pictures.
Doesn't abide by Hollywood rules, a.k.a. it's still very Japanese.
Still Japanese, yep.
And you will have to be high to like it.
Yeah, on hallucinogenics. Not just high, but you got to be like tripping balls. All right, finally from Leonard Maltin, he gave it 3 stars and said, young goldfish transforms into a little girl despite her father's...
that is the best synopsis. Like, that should be on the back of the... That's what you should have read up top instead of your description of the movie. Young goldfish... Read it again?
Sorry. Young goldfish transforms into a little girl and
just cut off the end. Young goldfish transforms into a little girl. Young Goldfish, also a pretty good rapper name.
Yeah. Young goldfish transforms into a little girl and despite her father's instructions leaves the ocean to explore the world and land, becoming involved with the 5-year-old boy and his mother. Miyazaki
I don't love that wording. Becomes involved with a 5-year-old boy.
And his mom.
It's like a National Enquirer article. Fish fucks boy.
Miyazaki reworks the premise of The Little Mermaid, creating a wildly imaginative, often surreal anime feature aimed at children. Miyazaki masterfully combines elements of traditional Asian folklore and Japanese culture attitudes with a strong pro-environment message to create a strange but uniquely satisfying animated experience. Original Japanese title translates as Ponyo on the Cliff by the Sea. Pixar supervised this U.S. release version.
Sober adults need not apply.
Yeah. Basically, we're on hallucinogenics while we watched this. The only awards I could find was it won 5 awards at the 8th annual Tokyo Anime Awards. I don't know what that is or if it's still going.
Fair.
But that's all I could find. It's the 8th film Miyazaki directed for Studio Ghibli. It was the widest opening for a Studio Ghibli film in the U.S. It was released by Walt Disney Studios, courtesy of John Lasseter. Grossing over $204 million worldwide, it became the 8th highest grossing anime film of all time. I don't know if that's still current, but at the time.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard about a couple random movies over the years,
yeah, I mean,
like doing crazy numbers
years ago. So
yeah,
and then just a couple of tidbits I'm gonna read from the art of Ponyo that I found I found interesting. Borrowing from Kodo's experience, Kondo was a guy who did some shorts that Miyazaki really liked. He did it he had this really like simplistic style that Miyazaki wanted to bring over to this picture. So that's just some context for what he's saying. Borrowing from Kondo's experience in animated house hunting, that's the short film, Ponyo would use solid and simple lines in isolating basic animation elements. The film would aim to demonstrate the advantages of hand-drawn animation through the deception of motion that cannot be reproduced in any other medium. An example of the simple style is when Miyazaki painted a picture of Ponyo riding on a flock of fish called Ponyo is Here, which was inspired by him listening to Ride of the Valkyries while writing a letter to his staff about going with more elemental style. This would later become a scene in the film.
And if I'm not mistaken, because I seem to remember this, there was like a song that played during that sequence that it sounded like it was a new interpretation of Ride of the Valkyries. Like it was a tune that I recognized, but it was like slightly off from normal.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
That makes sense. We haven't mentioned the music. This is not from notes, but we haven't mentioned the music. Joe Hisaishi, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but did the music for this and has done tons of scores and did most of the Ghibli, if not all of the Ghibli stuff. Neighbor Totoro, Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away. All of that music is awesome and did the music for this. This definitely had a lot of the, like, I don't know how to describe it, but bright, like bubbly, My Neighbor Totoro style of music through a lot of it. A little bit more like a children's film would, but I'm a big fan of his music. I've actually purchased some of those albums and just listened to them on their own because they're so good, but would be remiss to not mention that the music in this is still done by him and still pretty awesome. So, and then we mentioned this earlier, but a few previous Studio Ghibli films used CGI, the earliest being Princess Mononoke. And for this production, the computer graphics section of the studio was closed to prioritize hand-drawn animations. And like I said before, they drew everything. They didn't shortcut stuff. If something moved from one side of the screen to the other, they didn't slide it. They literally drew all of the animation cell by cell. So super impressive. So the question comes down to, Ryan, did you miss Ponyo?
I sure did. I'm glad to have finally caught up with this. I knew it would happen eventually. It just, for whatever reason, had to fall on this show making me do it. So
100% feel the same way. Totally missed it. I feel like every time I watch one of their movies, I'm like, gosh, why didn't I watch it sooner? And even now I've watched this and I'm like, all right, now I got to go watch the rest of them. I think most of them are on HBO Max. I've purchased a bunch of them as well. So I need to just take the time to go watch them because every time I do, I'm just transported to another world and so inspired and so blown away by all of what they do. So such an awesome movie. I
can't wait to hear your future review of Pompoko and whether or not you think it's a children's film.
Is it darker? You said it's darker than some of the other ones?
I wouldn't say that. Part of me just wants you to watch it, not knowing what is in it. Don't tell me. Okay.
I definitely need to watch it. There's everyone
that
one
I've watched, definitely. You know how we're talking about like, certain elements of this and like the weird sea goddess and everything like that may be from like Japanese folklore that like they would understand and we wouldn't. Pompoko definitely has an element of that.
Okay.
That Americans will see it and think, what the fuck? But in Japan, apparently it's a normal part of like existing folklore and it is something else.
All right. I'm excited to watch him. You said Pompoko?
Pompoko, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm down. Totally missed this movie. I thought the movie was awesome. one of my favorites of the year, I think. Yeah, just like I said, every time I watch their movies, I'm just like, I inject it into my veins, please. They're so good. So, alrighty, that's going to do it for this episode. Come back next week where we are going to watch Schenectady, New York. I think that's a Charlie Kaufman movie.
It is.
Okay.
And a Philip Seymour Hoffman movie.
Yeah, I think this was one that we both had on our lists, and it was just who was going to pick it.
Yeah.
Neither one of us has seen it. So literally know nothing about it other than Philip Seymour Hoffman is in it, and it's Charlie Kaufman, and no idea. I literally have no clue what this is going to be about, but we'll find out. That's going to be next week. All right. Until then, I'm Jason Munoz.
I'm Ryan Miller.
Come back next week for Schenectady, New York.